Welcome everyone, conversation class. This is our first real week and we have learned a load of new words which I'm just going to go through very briefly and try to re-explain. When we erupt, we explode. I was using this word in the context of anger. When our anger erupts, we explode. But when something erupts, it can come up, it can appear as well. These are good synonyms. When we have expectations, we have assumptions and beliefs. We just say, you know, it's like when you go into a restaurant, you expect good food, you expect good service. You don't always get it, but that's what you expect. These are our assumptions, our beliefs of what will or will not happen. Now, manipulate is a very negative word. I mean, when we manipulate somebody, we try to convince them to change their mind or their behaviour. But it's a negative word. We are trying to convince them to change for our benefit. So it's a very negative word. When we influence somebody, we can influence them in a positive way. We can try to change their mind or behaviour in a positive way or a negative way. But manipulation is always negative. If you betray someone, you deceive them, you lie to them, you cheat. If you are vindictive, it means malicious. These were the words we were learning today. If you are malicious, you're a very nasty person. You do nasty, horrible things to others. This is one I was having trouble with. Vanity. If you're a vain person, if you have vanity, you always try, it's a very physical thing, you always try to make sure you look better than everybody else. And it makes you quite big-headed and selfish and arrogant. But really, you know, vanity is very physical, whereas arrogance and selfishness and big-headedness can be very much in the personality and behaviour, whereas vanity, although it's a behavioural thing, is to do with how wonderful they look, making sure they look the best. If you have a flaw, you have a fault, you have problems. You know, have you ever heard of a software fault? There could be a fault in some software, a flaw in the software. Envy is jealousy. If you envy someone, you are jealous of them. You resent them. Have a listen to that word, you resent them. You know, you want something of theirs, or you envy their behaviour, you want to be like them, or you want what they've got. Somebody did explain it to me better than that, but I can't remember. Here's a lovely one. We know this word so well. Boring. We say something is boring, it's boring, it's boring. Try to use a different word. Mundane. This is the whole key of the conversation class, is trying to learn a new way of expressing ourselves out there in the big world. I don't like this word, but it was in the poem, disdain. If you disdain something, you dislike it or you hate it. These are much more common words. This word isn't very common, to be honest. If you are reckless, I rewrote this while you were chatting. If you are reckless, you do dangerous things and you just don't care. You're very, you know, you just bungee jump, you jump out of an aeroplane. If you are careless, you drop things, you bump into things, you forget things. They're different words, but they have a connection in their meaning. Gluttony is greed. You want more and it's never enough. And if you're vulnerable, you're helpless, but actually Bogomil came up with a much better word than that. Fragile. If you're vulnerable, you're fragile. You can be hurt very easily. And indolent, another word that we don't use very much, but we do use these ones, lazy and idle. So another one, it's really nice. Instead of saying, oh, you're a very lazy person, you can say, oh, you're an idle person. Try to use new vocabulary. That's what we're here for. Feedback time. Thanks a lot.